having that attention span towards something. They don't have to be as passionate about music or have the same priority list that I do to enjoy music and to love music in the same way that I do. But I think that's where it sort of excites me when I see the people that I'm like, I know they're going to like the longer version better, and then I do. It's like, that's fantastic. I have nothing against people who like the shorter version or the longer version, but it's always nice to sort of have that reaffirmation of like people that are that I think would really like that and understand it. So.
Right. You should reach out to Tool fans for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Tool, I mean, I'm really into a band called Typo Negative, if you know them.
Yes, I do.
Metallica, I like a lot. So I always say this to some of my, when I pitch it to people, and they're usually right. They say like, nobody has the attention to this band for something. That's like, well, you're absolutely right. But this is the way the song is. And then I sort of say, well, the song "One" by Metallica. Imagine making that into a 3-minute, song. Is it the same thing anymore? Is it still "One" by Metallica if you just do like a chorus or two and then you fade out? So to me that's how it is.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that Sevenfold. I like even some of Guns N' Roses and longer music. So
all right, Alex,
that's how I choose to write. And
let's do the next band here real quick. All right, the next band is Castillo. They are from Argentina, and the name of the song is, Alex?
La Parte, Azul del Fuego. I think it's the blue part of the fire.
The Blue Part of the Fire by Castillo from Argentina. Here it is. Right back here on Darkest Corners of the World, and today we're joined by Alex Bracy of Alex Bracy Music. What you just heard was Castillo. They're from Argentina. The song was called La Parte Azul de Fuego. And I think Alex explained what that meant to me, right?
Yeah. So I speak Spanish. I say that loosely because I feel like every time I do that, Latin people or people who speak Spanish, they speak at such a fast rate that they're like, oh, wow, it's like an invitation to suddenly like rattle off. And the interesting thing was I actually lived about a week and a half or 2 weeks in Colombia with my girlfriend and her family down there. So
did you meet Sepultura?
It's funny you say that. I actually, I did, so it's not really that funny. But I did see Sepultura, probably a year or so before then for the first time. And not long after that, some friends that are sort of local in a band called Starkill, I think they toured or did some stops with them. I think they did some performances with them on their tour. So they're in the same town as me. So it's sort of one of those weird things where people kept mentioning Sepultura because they knew I was like a rock and metal kind of. I was interested in that, and I wrote music that was similar to that. So people would ask me, and that kept getting brought up. That kept kind of reminding me, of all those sort of those weird coincidences. But what's really interesting is when I first started my page a couple of years ago, what I've really come to find is people in Latin America really, really like, bands like Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Metallica, and Guns N' Roses especially. So what's really weird is like when I first started marketing, I really marketed a lot towards South America. They love that. I would, in the early days of my page, back when Facebook wasn't, so algorithm
centric, yeah.
I could post like a Metallica video and get a thousand likes and a bunch of shares. So it was surreal, how much and how supportive people in Latin America have been with my music. Not only just my girlfriend and her family and whatnot, but just the overall fan base. People that you wouldn't even think of, like 40, 50-year-old women or something, love it. And people who are young men, and everything. So it's really cool.
And you can attest to the language differences between Latin America, Mexico, Spain. Being in the Army, I know that there's different variances between the same language that they speak, and it's almost like a colloquialism that they have that they don't have in different places. So when kids in America take Spanish classes and they go to Colombia, nobody knows what the hell they're talking about because they learn this weird stock Spanish.
Right, yeah, there are some differences between like the way people speak Spanish in Colombia and Mexico, I've noticed. I think in Spain as well. I did visit Spain, and sometimes you might use a phrase or something, and they might look at you like, "What are you talking about?" But they're usually like they're not so far off where if you can speak like a decent amount of any sort of Spanish, you can kind of get by. But there are some differences. Like, for example, you said the band's name was Castillo.
Mm-hmm.
To people, and like in the way I learned it, that would be correct. But in Colombia, I think they might say like Castillo, like two L's would make a jo. Like galleta is like a cookie. The Galleta is like cookie, galleta. You would usually pronounce it as like two L's make a ya sound, like a Y sound. But in Colombia, they might say like galleta, like two L's makes a ja.
So they're from Argentina. So they're from Argentina. How would they say it?
I don't think I know anybody directly from Argentina or have talked to anybody from Argentina. So they might be Castillo or Castillo. But I probably would have pronounced it Castillo just because I wouldn't know any better. And I think it's sort of the same way where if you were communicating something in English and you said like I think I had a teacher from Wisconsin that used to call the drinking fountain a bubbler. It's sort of like you kind of understand what they're talking about, and you're not going to really penalize somebody for speaking in a different way in that sense. You know, they're already kind of grateful that you're trying to speak, you know, their language. Or the way somebody would speak, that they're able to kind of understand what they're saying. And the thing about Latin America, you know, that I think was something that I absolutely adored, probably my favorite thing that I learned is some of the greatest, if not the greatest people that I've ever met, you know, moving from like going from one country to the next, just so kind and warm and welcoming. And, at no point did I ever feel like uncomfortable being, you know, especially in Latin America, like a white guy. Like, I mean, not just a white, like Caucasian, but like I'm a very pale kind of white guy with blue eyes and blonde hair. You know, that's like.
Yes, you're very melanin. You're very melanin insufficient. Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's a way of putting it. So, you know, to sort of add that and then try to be part of the culture, everybody was just so warm, so fantastic, so welcoming. So in that case, like something like trying to speak, they're already grateful that you're trying and they can see sort of what you're doing. So, you know, I think I had some people that were trying to help me because they knew, you know, okay, I'm trying to speak Spanish. They might say like, you know, in a very kind way, like, no, you wouldn't say it this way, you'd say it this way, or something like that. And of course, my girlfriend speaks fluent English as well, so it's like she was sort of the translator sometimes. But I was actually pretty proud of how I did. You know, I mean, it was a 24/7 thing, so I went into it knowing I would probably become a much better speaker. And on top of it, too, you know, I was going to a lot of get-togethers where, you know, I was maybe meeting 30 people at a time. And everybody's excited to see you because, you know, there's somebody from a different country that's coming here. And they might be firing off questions very fast because they're excited or something like that. But the interesting thing, too, and this is sort of what I was touching up on a little bit before, you know, about, Spanish speaking in general, is I think they speak at a much faster rate than humans do, or than English speakers do. You know, so in this case, like, you might be saying, like, you know, we're talking at this, right? Like, hey, how are you? How are you doing? You know, they might be like, like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I've been to places in the Army where I felt like I was at the Tower of Babel and I had no idea what was going on, you know?
Right. Yeah, so in that case, it's not an insult to anybody that speaks Spanish. It's just a cultural thing. You know, they speak faster in a way, and it's for somebody who's not, you know, 100% comfortable speaking the language in, you know, somebody else's country, that just adds a little bit of extra element to, you know, to just trying to speak that. But of course, you know, the people there, you know, it's not a negative thing to them at all. It's just their way of life. You know, it's just the way that they're used to. So you try to listen, but there's also a level of like mental exhaustion where you're trying to just concentrate, you know, for, you know, a couple hours at a time, or especially when it's something like you go to a party and you're meeting maybe 20 or 30 people and they're just firing off questions. I found that I could be really good. I could be like almost fluent for maybe an hour or two, and then my brain would just say like, I can't keep this up. It's like running for 10 hours. Your body at some point is going to be like, you know, well, when are we going to rest? So for me, my brain would kind of shut down, and I just, you know, I would just say, I need you to be the translator for a little while. But yeah, by far the best experience probably of my life.
That's awesome.
Having that surreal, not only just learning the language and seeing the place. It's like one thing to go to, you know, Colombia and visit like, you know, Bogota or, you know, Cartagena.
Oh, we had a band on this show from Bogota, Colombia. We had a band on this show. Okay. You're going to have to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I should.
It's a prior episode.
I mean, yeah, I'll have to see if I can kind of find them. But yeah, like I told you before, certainly people really like, you know, hard rock and metal from that area. So
so listen to this.
Yeah, in that case.